Hello, my name is John Wunderlich. I'm a privacy consultant and a MyData Global board member based in Toronto, Canada. I've worked with school boards and school board officials here in Ontario and on issues of privacy and data protection globally. Today, I'll be talking about the journey that students go through with respect to control of their own information in school systems. I will not be talking about the actual data that schools collect about students. That varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but I do hope that students and their parents ask questions about that to understand the student data that schools deal with. This is what I hope to talk about today. I've identified 5 stages in the journey for each student. The journey starts in preschool and ends in adulthood. At each stage along the way, each student will have a different level of control and understanding with respect to their personal data. If all goes well, students, parents, and teachers will be on the same page with respect to the treatment of student data at each step along the journey. We start our students' journey in preschool where, by and large, parents, in cooperation with the schools and their teachers, make all the decisions within the context of the rules of that school system, and this is the start of responsible digital parenting. At some point in elementary school, students can start to learn basic data literacy, somewhat along the lines of basic civics, and the parents and the teachers can choose to start talking about student data with students. In junior high, students can start to learn about how to make personal decisions about their own data, reflect on how they share their information about themselves, and perhaps start to make some decisions about their own data to understand the consequences of decision making. In high school, students should have a greater capability to understand student data privacy issues and to share some responsibility with their parents over their own data. This is a period of transition to when the student becomes an adult and will have the sole responsibility, whether they are prepared or not, for their own data privacy. Many students will become adults while still in school, achieving legal autonomy and assuming the responsibility for their student records previously held by their parents. In many schools, this will mean that parents will have to ask their children for the child's consent to allow the parent to continue to have access to student data. This may be traumatic for some parents. Before we start talking about the journey, let's be clear about the subject matter that we're talking about. A person maintains their privacy when they have the ability and power to choose what information about themselves they disclose to whom and for what reasons. In other words, they are autonomous and have agency. They can act in their own interests independently. But in systems like a school system, they don't always have complete autonomy. It's like work, like school, when information about a person's behavior or performance is recorded by that organization, an individual's privacy is protected when that organization is transparent about what information is collected, for what purpose it's used, and what is done with it, so that the loss of autonomy is balanced by transparency. So if we understand these concepts of privacy as personal control over what I disclose and a need for balance when I lose that control and some other organization has control, the level of transparency, that's the basis of our journey, starting in preschool. Children in preschool don't have a lot of autonomy, which puts the burden of data protection on the parents, who should remember the internet is forever, people can abuse information about children, and Facebook is not a family photo album. What does this mean? It means that responsible digital parenting does not mean oversharing. It's cute. In the old days, when I brought home a girlfriend when I was 18 or 19, and my parents brought out a photo album and embarrassed me by showing baby pictures to my new girlfriend when I was 18. That's not the same thing as posting cute pictures and moment-by-moment expressions of your child's life on Facebook for the world to see. I'm told, although I don't have evidence that this is the case, that one of the most common takedown requests that Facebook receives is when children turn 18 or achieve adulthood, going to Facebook and asking them to take down all the pictures that their parents posted about them. So responsible digital parenting means taking care, even at the earliest age, that you're protecting the privacy of the adult that your child will become. And at some point, you can start to share your concerns with your child when it seems appropriate to you. When you get to elementary school, the school system can become involved in some parts of that teaching. Now's the time to start laying the foundations of basic data literacy. Asking questions. Who has MyData? What data do they have? Where do they store my data? When can I see my own data? And why do they have my data? Basic data and privacy literacy is a candidate for a curriculum in the same way that basic civics is introduced in age-appropriate manner. Here in Ontario, for example, I know that the Information and Privacy Commissioner has curriculum material for grade 5. This could allow for some student record-related discussions with their teachers and with their parents. This set of questions above, who has my data, who, what, where, when, and why, can be repeated at increasing levels of sophistication and detail as the child grows up. And it also enables conversations between parents and school systems about systems that the schools choose to use in terms of, is this a cloud-based system? Where is my child's data? Who has access to it? These are also questions that a parent can ask. In junior high, and at the risk of overgeneralizing, this is the age where children are likely to start to make claims of privacy and autonomy. It's normal that children at this age will push against limits, identify constraints, and start to live with the consequences of their own choices. Putting a keep out sign on a bedroom is a claim for privacy and autonomy, and this will happen in various sections and sectors of the child's life. They may well disclose a lot of information on social media if they start to have a social media presence, and that's an opportunity for parents and teachers and school systems to help children navigate those choices. But remember, every child's journey follows a unique path. Each of them will want autonomy in their own way and in their own time. And parents and educators can help start the transition towards that level of autonomy. One possibility, for example, might be peer support groups where group privacy is respected and can help children understand the limits of privacy when they disclose information about themselves in small groups as opposed to broader contexts. High school is where a lot of these things come together. Many students will become adults in high school. This poses an interesting challenge for students who are adults and are still in school. Before a student becomes an adult, we need to make sure that students understand what information about them is held by the school system and what kind of decisions about that data can be made. Making sure that students understand that some of those decisions are out of their hands, just as they were out of their parents' hands, and are related to the way that school system measures performance, records results, and so on and so forth. Partnering with custodial parents will make for interesting conversations where parents or school systems have been more insular or more protective and haven't provided high school students with a grounding in understanding the issues. At majority, decision-making power shifts to the student legally. Records management and communication systems on the school system will have to be updated. And school systems that I've worked with, for example, it is the case that parents will get a letter or a communication from the school board weeks or months before the child turns 18, which is the age of majority here, letting them know that they have to work with their child to continue to have access to the records that they had access to as the parent. And which, of course, in some parents' case, will be a little traumatic having to go to ask their child's consent to access to records that they've had access to all through the school system. After majority, we need to help the student realize their autonomy and the limits of that autonomy. If we've done our job right, as students, as parents, and as educators, and have helped with the preparatory work, and the student is willing to embrace the responsibilities that go with personal data autonomy, more students will be better prepared for their new responsibilities. Students become the parental decision maker with respect to student information systems. Teachers and school administrators will have to stop conferring with parents about student data without student consent. And some students will make mistakes, which provides opportunities for teaching and development, both with that student and between students as peer group coaches. To the extent that parents are paternalistic or parents have helicopter tendencies, this transition will be more difficult for the student than it needs to be.